So use it while we're on the river, but please do, after you're done, return to your seats and buckle back up, all right? And this is also just for everybody on board. You know, we'll pass everything on both sides. I know people like to take a lot of pictures. If you missed the picture on the way in, we'll get it on the way out. So do not worry about missing anything, but please don't ruin anybody else's view, you know? Just be nice, be courteous, and stay seated. Rule number 2, no littering. You see the Coast Guard is paying us a visit right now, and they are out here driving around with their eyes everywhere. And if they see anybody litter anything off of this boat, that's intentional. I love what Adrian said for this building, because with each of these ledges, he pays homage to other beautiful buildings around it. So this first ledge on the right, leads up to the corner of the Wrigley building, this beautiful building with the clock tower right to the right of it. The second ledge to the left matches up with those 2 corn cob buildings, the Marina City Towers, there to the left. The third ledge matches up with the top of the AMA Plaza, that black boxy board office building right behind it. You notice these other black boxy office buildings around here too, all very similar design. These are all Ludwig Mies van der Rohe designs. That guy who did Lake Point Tower, he was the father of modern architecture. I consider him the father of the boring office building. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then that fourth ledge at the top of Trump matches up with a point on the World Trade Centers as they originally stood, as a way to pay homage to those. Now Trump also had some pretty crazy security features. It was designed like a collapsible telescope, so that if anything should ever hit Trump Tower, or if some sort of natural disaster should occur, Trump Tower will not fall onto the other buildings around it. It will actually collapse into itself and fall straight into the Chicago River, very much like a collapsible telescope. Another crazy security feature of Trump Tower is the base of it. The base of Trump Tower is left over from the Chicago Sun-Times building. That's what used to be on that spot of it. All right, they knocked down the Chicago Sun-Times building, but they cut the base of it. And at the base of the Chicago Sun-Times building was a nuclear bomb shelter left over from the Cold War. So the base of Trump Tower is built out to nuclear bomb shelter status. So they kept it. Also, we saw some of these other buildings, right? This beautiful building, unfortunately, somebody's repainting at the top as it is being renovated. That is the Jewelers Building, built in 1922, and for the first 14 years of its existence, it had an elevator that you could drive your car into and up to whatever floor you were exchanging jewels on. This was to minimize the chance of you being robbed of those jewels when you transfer them from your car to the building. At the same time, this is during Prohibition here in Chicago. The dome at the top, very, very beautiful, but the dome at the top of the Jewelers Building during Prohibition was a speakeasy run by none other than Al Capone. Our greatest crime boss was running a nightclub during Prohibition on one of our most infamous buildings. He is 1 block from the nearest police station, 2 blocks from City Hall. How does he get away with this? Well, up there with him every night of the week are the mayor of Chicago and the chief of police. They were very, very good at those parts. They're standing on the remnants of the Great Chicago Fire. Pretty cool. So we start rebuilding. We also start, once we've cleared out the area, we start offering businesses tax incentives to move to Chicago. We start offering businesses 5 years tax-free to move to Chicago. This is how we got people like Marshall Fields here in this city. Another thing that we do is, we're getting all these industries, and another good thing that came from the Chicago fire was actually the first ever skyscraper here in the city of Chicago. The home insurance building is on the north side. And the architect of the first skyscraper actually went to a bunch of other cities before Chicago to build this 10-story building. He went to New York, he went to St. Louis, and all of them turned him down. They did not like the idea for this building. It was too tall. It was going to fall over onto the other buildings around it. But he came to Chicago, We didn't have any buildings for his building to fall on. They said, yes, please build something here. So here in Chicago, we had the first skyscraper, a whopping 10 stories high. So after the Chicago fire, it actually turned out, it was kind of like a controlled fire in a forest, you know?